quite looking forward to a little break with no reveals, I can't lie, with the schedule supposedly slowing down. But Bandai said no, how about we don't do that? And just tonight they've revealed a handful of EB05 cards and also a handful of OP18 cards. As a reminder, EB05 is going to be coming out at the end of October, and OP18, so many sets, man, is going to be coming out in sort of mid to late November. The Sleeve Chief sale is still live for one more week. Check it out, code Marine for 5% off. Thank you to Sleeve Chief for sponsoring this video. Jumping into EB05 first, and I've got this PowerPoint formatted a bit strangely to try and make it flow. But firstly, we've got this alt art SP of OneCourse. Nice art. This art style, it's like a fashion show type beat that's associated with the heroine show. It's a bit weird. I don't dislike it, but it's very different from what One Piece and One Piece cards normally are. So this is quite a unique looking card, and it does look pretty cool. I like metallic big border. And we're also getting a bunch of alt art leaders in this set. These designs are a bit weird. They're very, I know obviously One Piece isn't anime, but they're very, very anime faces. I mean, look at the size of Vivi's eyes. Holy shit, Batman. She's going to see you from 52 miles away. She got bored of her forehead being mocked in her original art and was like, what if we make the forehead normal, but the eyes the size of my head? Incredible work. The background's a little strange. I don't know about the big mouths, but what I do really like is these borders at the bottom. You got things that are associated with each of these ladies in the borders at the bottom, right? Shirahoshi's got a bunch of starfish and coral. Nami's got the oranges, and I assume this flower is associated with Alabasta. I can't quite remember. To be honest, it's been a while since I watched that. But yeah, these are clean. They're nice and colourful, which is very cool. And we're not only getting 3, we're getting one for Boa and one for Rebecca as well, which I know some of my homies are going to be looking for these for sure. And we're also getting one for Bonnie. Finally, we have a Bonnie art that's not horrendous. This is a yellow Bonnie. Previously, she only had the one where she was just crying her eyes out, which was not very flattering alt art leader, I must say. This looks much nicer. And we're also getting a new Robin leader, so I'll pull up the regular art. Here's the alt art again. It's kind of nice. Her face looks a bit weird. She looks like a bit tired. But this is the base art as well, and don't worry about it. But anyway, once per turn, one of your characters with the wisdom attribute and without blocker, they've learned from Boa, is KO'd. You get a heal. So one thing that's really weird is Robin in the One Piece card game hasn't really been the wisdom attribute. I mean, look at this 7-cost Robin. This is the most playable Robin, probably, at the minute. And it's Strike. Almost every old Robin card is Strike. We do have a new Robin card we're going to talk about in a minute that is Wisdom. But I wonder if they're switching her over or what. Obviously, this is kind of reminiscent of the Zoro leader and the Mihawk leaders who play around those slash packages. But this is a leader that specifically interacts with the attribute, which is pretty interesting. It's going to make it frustrating for your opponent to play into your board, but I think less frustrating than it is against Blue-Yellow Boa, because healing is, I think, generally worse than Boa's effect of burning your life, especially combined with her other effects of triggers. She could just rush you down and just gank you. Whereas Robin, you're going to be playing a more slow and methodical game. And as I said before, I'm glad they said without blocker, because Boa being able to block and burn your life off, that was pretty cancer. Her other effect is activate main once per turn. You can restand a wisdom attribute character with 6,000 power or less. Pretty nice. I mean, if you've got a blocker, you can swing with it and then stand it back up. Or you can just attack with something, stand it back up, and then attack again. It's going to be pretty bad into big leaders, into a blue-yellow Nami or a Roger that's at 7k base. This kind of doesn't do anything unless we have some kind of tap searcher or something, which we might get. But into a 5k leader, just getting an extra attack every turn, that sounds pretty compelling. In terms of older cards that you might look to use, we have Clover, Olvia, and Derashi from OP09. I think Olvia is very likely to see play. It's just an incredibly good 2k. 3,000 power just gives you an above average bump when you're going for your lethal, and the trigger's pretty good too. Clover only if we end up playing a lot of trigger cards. He wasn't very good in Old Robin and probably won't be good here. But both of these are interestingly wisdom, although at 0 power, it doesn't really matter. And Derashi again, only if we're playing load of triggers. It's hard to say whether these cards are going to be good or not. We have like 2 cards revealed for this deck, but they're worth noting. One cost Nami could be something. I don't know if we will play a generic Straw Hat Crew package. It doesn't really synergize with this Robin's Leader's effects at all. It feels like we're going to be reliant on the inset support, much like we were with GP Luffy back in the day. But cards like this and the 5-cost Nami could be fine. Although do bear in mind, this Nami cannot search the 5-cost Nami because it's named Nami. And finally, there's a couple of weirdo picks. Pudding is Wisdom, and you can trash a trigger to draw 3. We've seen this be quite popular in a number of rogue yellow decks recently, and it could be interesting for Robin. Again, your opponent's probably just going to leave it there because it's 4k, so you're going to have to put Dons on it to swing every turn. But that's not the worst, and getting some card advantage is always good. And finally, some real weirdo pick, Amazon. This card is dog shit, at least now. 3-0 Wisdom. On opponent's attack, you may rest this character. Your opponent may trash 1 life. And if they don't, which they're not going to, you get to give a free 2k. You get to give -2000 power to something, either leader or character. And this is Wisdom. So if they kill it, then they heal you. So I don't know. I don't know if this will actually see play in the deck, but it was really cute. And this is like complete bulk, so it's quite funny. I just wanted to mention it here. That quite a cool interaction actually. The one card we have gained from EB05 so far is the 6-cost Robin. This is weird. This feels like bad lore. I don't know, man. 6/6/1k, your turn on play. Play a 5-cost Wisdom character. 5 cost or less from your hand. Trigger rest to 6, which is fine. Yeah, we don't have very many. In yellow and green for this leader. Hogback if we want to play Thriller Slop, but I really don't. Really don't want to play Thriller Slop. And Megalo, I guess, is a nice Wisdom 2k. You might actually play this one, honestly. This is pretty reasonable. But outside of that, there's like a whole bunch of Vegapunks, which they don't synergize with this leader very well. But I guess you could play them. And everything else really is quite mid. We don't have very many big Wisdom characters. It's just not an attribute that's very common. Slash and Strike and things like that are far more common than Wisdom. So I think we are really going to be reliant on her support. And the fact that this can only play Wisdom cards, where a 6-cost Lore has the same stat line, blocker, and can play anything, albeit tapped. I don't know, man. This card feels fine, but if we get some good targets, this card could be pretty good. Because your opponent, it is Wisdom, right? So your opponent's not going to want to take it out because of your leader effect. One interesting thing, though, is GP Luffy can't play Lore because he's not Straw Hat Crew. And Sanji and Pudding is part Wisdom. So that is a legal target for Robin. So this could help GP Luffy go wider faster, which is what he's wanted to do anyway. Which I thought was quite interesting. On 6, you'd get to play Robin and Sanji Pudding. And develop 2 bodies. And then use your leader effect to obviously go to 6k. Pretty cool. Overall, I do think this card's a bit mid. The leader is also just very, very hard to evaluate because we don't have the cards for it. These effects seem strong, but it'll be reliant on the support. And speaking of support, we are getting 1 card of support for this Robin leader, but also another leader that we'll touch on very soon in OP18. So yeah, this is jumping ahead to OP18, which is November release. There's a 4/5 Wisdom 1k Robin. Opponent's turn, if your character will be removed from the field from your opponent's effect, you may rest this character instead. Nice board-wide protection effect. And at the end of your turn, you can restand one of your Water 7 type characters and set one of your Don cards as active. And she is Water 7 Straw Hat. So I think the idea with this one is you're going to swing with it and then you get to restand it so that you can both swing with it and use that protection effect. And in addition to that, she's just active, so your opponent can't attack into her, which is pretty nice. The Don in this green Robin, I don't know, maybe we'll play some counter events, but I think in other decks, this Don is much more relevant. This feels kind of like a conglomeration of these 2 cards up here, but also with a protection effect, the Usopp and the Zoro. She restands herself like Zoro, and she restands 1 Don like half an Usopp. In my eyes, in RG Luffy, this is quite a significant buff. That deck has struggled with removal. You've got Laboon, and you've got a bunch of bad cards that you can play as anti-removal tech. Most people are just playing Laboon, and it's unsearchable. And also a body that you don't particularly want on the board because it's a 1-2. Well, this Robin's a relevant stat line, restands itself so you can swing with it and there's no drama, and it's searchable. It's Straw Hat Crew, which is incredibly relevant. And getting a Don back as active as well, this seems like a huge buff for RG Luffy, which is pretty cool. I could also see this team play in GP Luffy. GP Luffy plays tons of events. Gum Giants, I Know You're Strong, there's all sorts of counter events you play in GP Luffy. And again, this restands itself, so it can't be interacted with, has anti-removal to protect your Sanji and Puddings, and then restands Don for your counter events. It just seems like an, again, natural big buff. I really do like this card, and there is one more leader that this can potentially go in, and that is, we finally got him. Franky is here. Super! And this ult art is sick. Look at this, man. This is insane. Got the big super in the background, and you probably can't tell because it's... I apologise. But within the S, you've got some of the characters associated with Water 7, like Tom. You see Tom up here where my mouse is. Really cool. Kiwi and Mozu in the art as well. And Franky is a green-purple leader, much like GP Luffy. And he says, all stage cards in your hand have 3000 counter, and activate main once per turn. You can Dom -1 to play a stage with a cost of 5 or less from your hand. Shame it's not 6, we'll mention that in a minute. But we do have a 5 cost revealed already. The Mini Mary, and this is just an uncommon. But this seems like a very integral part of the deck. And what I hope is they print a couple more stages in this set. So he has like this one he plays in the early game. Then maybe he has the Mary. Then maybe he has the 1000 Sunny. Maybe the submarine that he made. I know he didn't make the Mary, so maybe we won't get that one. But anyway, for the one we do have, this is a 5 cost stage, but not really. Draw 1, ramp 1, rested, so you get the Dom back that you used for his leader effect. And then activate main, you can rest this to give up to 4 of your leader or characters a rested Dom card each. That's like a Chopper's leader effect, but better. On a stage that you play for free and draws 1. Incredible. So it seems like Franky wants to be, at least with this card, wants to be like a go wide aggro style deck. And we do already have a few cards to support that. But first, a couple of the stages you can consider. Going Merry and 1000 Sunny are both a little underwhelming, but they are Straw Hat Crew. And at the very worst, they're just 3k in your hand. And that 3k being able to defend your characters like multiple times is kind of huge. All the 3k events that people are playing, like Know You're Strong and such, all only defend leader. There's not that many counter events people actually play that defend characters as well. So these effectively being free 3k counter events is strong. And what this is going to allow you to do is, I don't think you're going to run any 2ks in this deck. What's the point, right? Why would you run maybe you'd run Usahachi because he has a pretty good effect. But why would you run some of the more like generic, bland 2ks that people run? I mean, there's decks that run like vanilla 2ks and things. Why would you run those when you can just run random stages? Like this 1000 Sunny and Going Merry, which aren't incredible cards, but they do have positive effects. And then they're 3k, they're just 1.5 2ks in a trench coat. As a result, I think you're going to need to swing a little differently into Franky when you're opposing him. You're not going to want to swing like 7 on 5, for example, because that's just one stage. You'll prefer to swing like 6-6 than 5-7, I think. Because then at least they have to give you 2 stages rather than a stage in a 1k. Just a little funky. And yeah, here, Noah's Ark. Can only play a 5 cost or less. I don't think you'll play this, but it's kind of cute. So if Franky does end up being sort of an aggro go wide strategy, we might finally get to use some of these old Water 7 cards that nobody's ever really used, because these were Iceberg supports, and that lead was Bog Water. Blue Note and Khalifa are a bit of a 1-2 punch combo. Blue Note's a 4-5, Dom -1. If your leader's Water 7, don't get caught up on the nomenclature, it's just how the proxies look. You get to play a 5 cost Water 7 card from your hand or trash. So for 4 Don, you get to play a 4 and a 5, and the 5 comes from trash, so it's pure value. And then he can play this Khalifa, who's a 5-5 with on play Dom -1. If your leader has Water 7, you grab back 2 cost 4 or less character cards from your trash to your hand. That's effectively a draw 2, like with curation. Sure, you can't get your boss monsters, but you could grab more Blue Notes. You could just grab a bunch of 2ks. You could even grab the Robin. She costs 4. What a treat. So in this way, you're developing 2 dudes for 4 Don and getting 2 cards back to replace the Blue Note that you played and go +1. This This was always a good combo in Iceberg. Iceberg was just crap. Maybe this Franky is not crap. Maybe these could be played. I don't know. We'll see. And finally, the other Water 7 card, if we do end up going just a Water 7 route, is Franky. This play does go Dom -2, and we don't have Iceberg stage like Iceberg did. So you probably will need something like this Franky in order to regenerate some Dom, because we're going to want to play Gum Gum Giant as well. And if we do go down a more Straw Hat Crew route, we already have a plethora of these cards. There's way more than I could talk about today. And the video would be 64 hours long. But Giant is almost certain to be in the deck. And then if we do go Straw Hat Crew route, we've got a bunch of searches in the Nami and the Lore. The Luffy seems pretty cool as a way to get a bunch of rested Dom to then give with your stage, whilst developing another like offensive unit when you're going for your lethal. And in the same way, this 6+ Luffy is kind of the same thing. He only works in multicolored leaders, which we are, and he is a good closer. And being able to give him a rested Dom for free, which makes him that little bit bigger, not too bad. Usahachi is a 2k you'll probably play, but if you don't end up playing Straw Hat Crew, maybe you won't. And these two are fine. Lore can help you with a bit of going wide, and in fact, if you played Lore into Blue Note into Khalifa, that sounds pretty grim. And don't forget that if you play the Robin off Lore, she will restand herself, so maybe there's something there, but I don't know. We'll see. Overall, this leader, it feels really weird because we don't have very many of the cards. We only have one uncommon, and this is a main set leader, so we'll get a whole package of support. But this seems really cool. I like Franky, and I really hope we get a bunch more stages that we can cycle throughout different parts of the game. Just for interesting effects, because if it's just one, it'd be a little disappointing for how many ships he's known for building, right? And the one that probably most people have been waiting for, Gunko, she is here. People were potentially expecting this in OP17, but we just had to wait one more set. Purple, Black, Celestial Dragons, and Holy Knights of God, new archetype. Once per turn, when a carriage is played from your trash, you get a draw 2, trash 1. We've seen how good draw 2, trash 1 is in Rocks. If you can play a card from your trash every turn, which seems somewhat likely, given the support we're going to talk about, this is a very strong effect. The other effect is weird. Activate main once per turn, you can trash one card from your hand. If you have a carriage with 8,000 power or more, 8,000 base power, you get to ramp 1 as active. Trashing 1 to ramp 1 is fine. That's what Robin does, Purple Yellow Robin. But typically, decks want to ramp in the early game. Whereas this can only ramp, the earliest this can ramp is like 5 Dom. So, I don't know, this is a bit weird. I mean, I guess it can help you get from like 6 to 9 if you play a 6/8 on 6. Or if you have Holy Land Marie's Raz, which is probably a good card in this deck. You could play this, and then on 5, maybe you play a 6/8 if there is one that exists that we want to play. And then you can ramp to 6, and you'll be 8 next turn. But if you're just going to ramp like once per game, it feels a little weird. I guess you can just trash 1 to just have an active Don for like an event, or an extra bit of aggression, or searcher or something. But yeah, this doesn't seem too crazy the second apart. But the constant extra draws, that seems strong. That seems strong to me. And we do already have a few Celestial Dragons cards we can use. 5 Elders searches for everything Celestial, and all the Holy Knights of Gods will be Celestial Dragons. Saint Shalria does too, but she makes you trash 1, and we don't have Emu's leader effect. So I think this one is only going to be good if we get some kind of board interaction that needs you to trash characters specifically for some kind of beneficial effect. And the Holy Land seems like a natural include. Just making your characters cheaper if you can find this early seems strong. And because we have a draw 2, trash 1, I'm imagining on most turns, you can just trash excess copies of this if you draw more than 1. And here's the alt art. We do have this. I think the Franky one's cooler, but this is pretty cool too. You got Emu's big eye in the background, which is pretty sick. We do have 2 cards of support so far. Firstly, we've got a Saint Shamrock Secret Rare, 8/9. On KO, you can trash 1 card from your hand, play this character from your trash. So it's like Black Crocodile. You can't get rid of him. That effect on Crocodile, just making him basically immune to battle damage, is really strong. Although do note you won't get the draw like you would with Crocodile, so there is a material cost to saving this, though it's not very high. And then activate main once per turn. If this character's played this turn, you get to summon a Holy Knights of God with a cost of 6 from your trash. We don't have any. It's an 8 that summons a 6 from trash seems good, but we don't have any cards to talk about at the moment. Honorable mention to Hackaba though. Every black leader, bro, you mentioned the Hackaba Cope. But this guy killing Shamrock will let you reuse his activate main, which is quite funny. So yeah, probably slightly better than in Crocodile, in Yamato. I don't know, man. It's probably still bad, but being able to summon another 6, that's actually pretty strong. And finally, we did get also a 10 cost Gunko card. 10-11 blocker, on play, Dom -1. Yeah, this is a purple card. I thought this was black. But it's purple. The Shamrock is black. But the Gunko is purple. And she plays a Celestial Dragon rather than a Holy Knights of God with 6,000 power or less from your trash. And do remember, when you summon this card from both the Gunko and the Shamrock, you're going to proc the leader effect to get a draw 2 trash one. Again, we don't have many. We have the Elders. They're fine. I think War is probably the best of these, just being a blocker that says draw 1. Mars, if you really need to trash, get rid of some 5s, it's fine. And Nuss seems a little slow, but I guess you never know. It's very hard to evaluate these characters without knowing exactly what they're going to summon, but I have to imagine they're going to be good. And getting a free draw 2 trash one every turn is going to be strong. That's just a strong effect. We've seen that on Rocks, and this is better than Rocks. You just have to do a little bit more work than he does. I think this deck is going to be very much focused around these packages, so I don't think too many generic black cards are likely to see a lot of play. In Gunko, maybe you'll play a Ground Death event. I don't know. A lot of the old Emu cards as well are just either leader locked or not that powerful outside of Emu, because you don't have that empty throne stage. You can play it for what it's worth, but you can't play the 10 cost, so you definitely wouldn't. But I do think this Gunko Leader is probably looking better than the Franky right now, although she has had a secret and an SR revealed, and Franky has had an uncommon, so I'm not surprised. Finally, we got this Luffy leader. Not much to say here. It's a rainbow leader that's legal for play. Wild. And under the rules of the game, you cannot include cards without the Wutu 100 type in your deck. This is the popularity poll that just happened. Shout out Cracker. If you know, you know. But yeah, with no idea what this is going to be like. When attacking in trash 1, look at the top 2 and take 1 and trash the other. That's a good effect. That's better than Sakazuki's effect. Sakazuki's effect was insane. And this is a 5-life multicolor, all-color leader. Who knows, man? Who knows? But the special note that this is the first Block 6 card, I do believe. So this is going to be coming out in a while. Probably like next year. I don't know, like March. If you have seen an official release date for this, I saw people speculating March or April. But if you've seen an official date, let me know in the comments. One last add-on, I nearly forgot. We're getting these arts of both Loki and the new Shamrock card in our OP18 set. These are drawn by Yoshitaka Amano, who is very well known for much art, including a lot of Final Fantasy art. This is the Final Fantasy collab that was rumored a while ago. I'm so glad it's not just like fucking Luffy dressed up as Cloud. And it's just an artist collab. These artist collabs are interesting. I'm sure a lot of people are going to like this. And art is subjective, right? So I think some people are going to really like these. And I think the borderings actually look really, really clean, especially on the Shamrock. But this art is not for me. This art is just not for me. And I've looked at a lot of his other work, and I actually think a lot of his other work looks quite good. A lot of his Final Fantasy stuff looks very nice. I just don't think these pieces are that great. It's my opinion, right? Tell me how wrong I am in the comments. That's it for today. Bit weird to have some EB05 and some OP18 when they're coming out like a fair way apart, like at least a few weeks. But it is what it is. I guess that Robin really does kind of tie the Franky Leader and the new Robin Leader together somewhat. I don't know. Either way, thank you for watching and hope you have a lovely rest of your day.